But let's take you to this now. The State Capture Commission of Inquiry continues in Braamfontein today. The commission will hear evidence relating to allegations of corruption at Prasa.
Yeah, and it's Clint Oellermann who is expected to testify before the commission today on the dodgy financial transactions at the parastatal. Our reporter, Tumaole Mohlaoli, is tracking that story for us. In fact, he joins us in studio. Tumaole, thanks for coming in.
Thank you very much.
The State Capture Inquiry back again in amongst all of the other issues that we're dealing with in the middle of a pandemic. What was it like yesterday with Popo Molefe on the stand?
Absolutely. Well, yesterday, Popo Molefe wrapped up his evidence, and in terms of what he had testified, he just basically summed it all up, and emphasizing that, again, he felt that Prasa's board, as he was former chairman, was basically rendered ineffective in his time there, and this was due to the allegations of state capture and allegations of high-level meddling. Now, following his testimony, then, the commission called forward a property development agent who then basically testified as to how Prasa got involved in dodgy deals in terms of securing property, even though the board had flagged some very, very serious financial irregularities in those deals. But that Prasa went ahead, despite these concerns that were raised, to go ahead and procure properties. We're talking about in the tens and up to the hundreds of millions of rands of properties that were procured, but then were not used to the benefit of Prasa. So the allegations there are saying that this was pointing to very, very, very serious financial mismanagement at the high level within the parastatal.
Yeah, you speak about high-level mismanagement. Mr. Molefe also mentioning that, of course, he had tried to sound the alarms with high-level officials in the ANC. But help us locate Clint Oellermann in all of this. I mean, how does Clint fit the bigger picture painted largely by Popo Molefe?
Yes. So how Clint basically fits in to the picture is that he is an investigator for the commission. He was the man tasked to try and find out what was happening for the commission, to paint the picture as who were the various role players. And now what we will see is that following Popo Molefe's testimony, we will now have the people who were then investigated and the people that the commission had to basically pose questions to try and find out and trace the dots as to how this financial irregularity played out and who were the role players that were involved in making sure that these dodgy transactions were allegedly pushed through. And this is what he will then lay out to the commission today.
Wow, that seems like it's going to be incredibly explosive. Yep. But Tumaole, before we let you go, just in terms of the State Capture Commission of Inquiry now resuming its work, in the midst of a pandemic, there was a long break that had to be taken with regard to the lockdown. Do we know now how much time is left until the inquiry itself is meant to finalize its work?
Very good question, Michelle. We do know that Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Zondo did raise the concern to say that the Commission is under pressure to finalize its work because of the long delays. He said that he foresees a situation where the Commission might have then to continue its work well into next year. So quite a lengthy process that will be laid out over the next couple of months. He did say that they will try to work quickly to make sure that all the witnesses and all the evidence that they require in order to finalize this particular commission will be heard within that time period. So very tight deadlines, but Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Zondo very confident that they will complete the work as set out.
Yeah, right. Well, that'll be interesting, just given the extent of the work, the extent of the investigations, and obviously the documentation that comes along with it. Absolutely. A big job ahead there. Thanks very much for that. Tumaole Mohlaoli is our reporter tracking that story. The State Capture Commission of Inquiry sitting in Braamfontein again today.